Okay, time for another episode of the Nerdy Virgin podcast, which I'm re-recording because the last time I tried to record this, I made a joke that I feel like was not appropriate. And what I'm learning is I don't feel comfortable making fun of other people. I only feel comfortable making fun of myself or Batman villains. So that I've just got to learn to accept that the guilt level that I have is too great for me to make fun of other people. And I know this, and yet I continue to let that slip out of me, and then I feel guilty about it, and then I have to re-record the podcast. So now I'm in a bad mood that I have to do this over again. I'm very angry. I'm upset. I'm very upset that I have to redo this because on that last recording, there were moments of what I would describe as absolute brilliance. Not really. So this is going to be, and my other fear, by the way, is that this version won't be as good as the first version. Well, why not just go in and edit out the thing that you don't want to put in? Just cut it. Why not just do that? You have Adobe Premiere, Josh. Why not just do that? And now that I say that, actually, that's actually a brilliant idea. Why don't I just do that? But just in case I don't feel like it, I'll go ahead and record this one. In case something happens to Adobe Premiere in between now and the time I go to deal with this stuff. So the 2 points I wanted to bring up. Well, number one, we got to talk about this Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1 episode, Justice. And number two, I'm recording this while wearing a mask, and so my fear, and what I discussed in the first iteration of this podcast, that I'm now going to try to replicate, and whenever I try to replicate it, what if it's not as good? It's also, I'm doing this while my car is getting serviced. So I'm walking around the neighborhood outside where the car is. And people are going about their day. And I'm just podcasting loudly into my phone. It feels very invasive. I feel like people are looking at me and going, is he podcasting in my neighborhood? Is he podcasting in my neighborhood? Call the authorities. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I'm wearing a mask as I do this, and my fear was that it would be muffled, which makes me think it would be cool to see Bane, a Batman villain, doing a podcast. Today on the podcast, we have the incomparable George Clooney. And George Clooney says, I've been kidnapped. If anyone can hear this, please help. Now, George, I understand you're a movie star. I understand. You have a long and illustrious career. But do you know pain, George Clooney? Do you understand pain? That's all Bane would do on every podcast guest. I know, former President Barack Obama, that your presidency represented a paradigm shift in the culture and politics of the nation. But do you feel pain? I feel pain whenever I inject the serum into my veins and my body grows exponentially. It is pain. That's the Bane podcast. Is it as funny as the Joker podcast? No, but it's a good listen if you want to know about pain. If you want to know about pain, listen to Bane. So, see, I did that whole thing on the first iteration, and I'm worried that this one fell a bit flat, because the first one felt more spontaneous. This one I felt like I was recreating. I could release both of these. Wouldn't that be something? To take one and to take two. It's just, we're at the point now where it's all about putting content out there. Content, man. Why not do a behind the scenes, a podcast, and then a slightly different, this could be the Snyder cut of the last episode. How about that? It's also exceedingly difficult to do this because I've not eaten today, nor have I had any water. And it's very hot out. It's not even that hot out, but I wore fleece, and it's warmer than it was the last few days. So I'm feeling very parched. I also, at this point, I probably could take off the mask. No one is around. But I just don't want to risk it. We're living in an Omicron world, people. And yes, I am vaccinated and boosted. But what does that mean anymore? You know, my fear is that I'm going to spend all this time isolating from people, social distancing, wearing masks. And then they're going to give the all clear one day. I know that's a myth, but one day they're going to give the all clear. I'm going to take everything off. I'm going to go to a bar. Well, we all know that's a lie. I never go to bars. I'm going to go to a coffee shop. Someone's going to sneeze, and I'm going to die of the common cold because my body is just not prepared for it. That's my big fear. But anyway, on today's episode, we're discussing the Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1 episode, Justice, in which the Enterprise visits a planet full of very attractive people who do nothing but wink, wink, nod, nod, and play hacky sack. Does that make sense? They just roll around in the hay and play very light summer sports. That seems to be the only thing this society does. At one point, they may have dabbled in table tennis, but that was proven to be a bit too much of a fad. So they visit this planet. Everyone beams down. It's very beautiful. They're like, oh, we could have our shore leave here. Oh, it's great. All they do is roll around in the hay and play hacky sack. This seems perfect. It seems like there's absolutely nothing that could go wrong here, unlike every other planet we visit every other week. So Wesley's running around with some of the other kids playing hacky sack, and he trips over some bushes, and he tramples the bushes. And apparently, the punishment for that on this planet is death. This planet is ruled by a giant, non-corporeal alien entity who takes care of the people and the inhabitants and has imposed all of these rules. So I think what we are witnessing here is a godlike being who really cares about the bushes and landscaping. In the beginning, there was nothing. And then God created an esplanade. And God knew that even though these plants and flowers weren't native to this particular region, with enough care and watering, it would look fine. So then God created a landscape company, and he created a sign company so that they could print no trampling the bushes. So at this point, Picard has to get involved, which in these early episodes is a crew member screws up and Picard's like, all right, I gotta go deal with this. I gotta go save Wesley Crusher, my favorite member of the crew. I just feel like in some of these early missions, Picard is talking to his higher-ups, saying things like, is this really the best use of my time? I'm one of the greatest explorers the Federation has ever seen. on one of the most expensive starships we've ever built. Even though we don't believe in money here in the 24th century, we all collectively know this was an expensive piece of machinery. And right now, what am I doing? Wesley tramped over the bushes, and now I got to talk our way out of it. Great. Brilliant. And he goes down, and there's a lot of, I think they go through a trial. They try to explain he didn't know any better. And finally, Picard has to do a rousing speech where he says, if there's no exceptions, how can this really be justice? And the godlike entity is like, all right. We'll let you go just this one time. Just all right. Just never trample my bushes again, all right? But off you go. Get out of here, you rapscallions. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is an episode that I would be fine to never watch again. And you know what? It's no slight on the episode itself, because the episode itself has a lot to say. In a way, it's a commentary against absolutism. Is that a word? It's a commentary against eye for an eye. It's a commentary against we make a rule and under no exceptions do we break that rule. I've actually sat down right now on the curb, podcasting in North Hollywood. That's where my life has taken me. Podcasting in North Hollywood. I also feel like right now I'm kind of have a performative voice, and I'm trying to let that go and just talk and not try to worry about performing so much. This guy walking his dog while on his skateboard, and I instantly don't like him. Not the walking the dog, the skateboard. What? He's probably a teenager. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, you think you've got it figured out. You think you can skate through life. Life's not that easy. You trample one set of bushes, you trample the wrong set of bushes, it is over, my friend. And unless you have a bald British man who can make good speeches, it is over. There is no hope. How can this episode apply to my life? There are people that really make me upset who I have not forgiven. And I think this episode reminds me that justice must be tempered with compassion. And that I really should forgive those people. I won't. Here's what I do, is I forgive them in practice. Like when I'm around them, I'll act as if I've forgiven them. But, when I'm alone at night, now I still hold on to the resentment. And that's how that's what keeps me awake. Other people use caffeine, I use resentment. So, to each his own, right? Well, here's the other thing about this podcast, which is doing this a second time, is that my thoughts are a lot more clear because I had the first time to rehearse it, which means now I've only done 13 minutes. Whereas when I did the podcast last time, it was 23 minutes, which means I've condensed 23 minutes of iffy material into 13 minutes of still probably iffy material. I want these podcasts to be longer than this. I want the podcast to be an hour. My dream is to have the kind of podcast that Bill Burr has, where he just goes on and on for an hour, sometimes more than an hour. But you know what? Today I feel like this is really all I need to talk about. I feel like we're good there. It can be a 13-minute thing, right? It doesn't always have to be an hour. What's important is that I'm putting it out there for all to see and hear. Mostly hear. No one can see this. Unless you want to see sound waves. That would be the closest you could get. Somebody's driving by in a Honda Fit. I should be careful, they're parking nearby. I don't have the heart to tell them that I can't stand that car. I'm sure it's a good car in terms of reliability and, getting from point A to point B. But it felt like when I test drove that car, I had to I had to turn the steering wheel 57 times for it to turn a little bit. It did not handle like a sports car. It was like it's this tiny hatchback that handles like it's a moving van. And normally I'm not like a huge sports car guy, but this was ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Good, well, we covered my complaint about the Honda Fit. I am getting my car serviced. The guy rattled off all the things we need to do at this mileage, like I know what he's talking about. I should just launch into the conversation next time. Just double down on it. Oh yeah, change the filters? Absolutely, we should be changing the filters. You know, my grandfather served in World War II and was a mechanic, and I'll tell you something, they made him go up on those planes, and if they didn't change those filters, it would be over. It'd be the end of the day. It'd be game over. It would be game, set, and match. The fat lady would sing. It would be the fourth quarter. It would be, it would be the end of the Choose Your Own Adventure novel, and not the good one. It'd be Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. It would be, that's it. I've not seen the Fantastic Beasts movies at all. I got to Deathly Hallows Part 2. I went, all right, I did it. I did what I needed to do. And then they're saying, oh, no, there's going to be a whole other franchise now. Prequel series, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I said, no, I'm not getting on board. I did what I needed to do. I read the first book. I saw all the Harry Potter movies. I've done what I needed to do. I've done my job. I expect to be paid handsomely. But that's it. You're signing me up for Fantastic Beasts? Newt Scamander? Now I need to follow Newt Scamander? I don't think so. I have no idea how good or bad those movies are. Seems like a lot of British people wearing proper attire and speaking of bad portents. That seems to be the vibe of it. I would see a Harry Potter franchise movie if Larry David was the lead. If it was Larry David going through the Harry Potter universe, saying, why can't you just make a spell that kills the bad guy? Just abracadabra, kill Voldemort. Why wouldn't that be all you need to do? It seems like a lot. It seems like a bit much. I have a choice here, people. I have a choice. I can either walk all the way to the Republic of Pie, have a piece of pie, and get sick to my stomach. Or I can go back to the dealership, do some riding, eat nothing, and be productive. What's the vote, people? What is the vote? Welcome to the Bane podcast. I'm Bane. We're sponsored today by creatine powder. It's not as good as the stuff I use to get bigger, but it's still pretty good. Bane podcast. Banecast. My guest today is Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Fauci, do you know what pain is? Yeah, somehow he's done 140 of these podcasts. Batman is Commissioner Gordon. Bane has kidnapped another person to be on his podcast again. Now, I know that you said that you don't believe killing is right, but perhaps your position on that could evolve. Give me a call back at 1-800-Commissioner-Gordon. That's not his phone number. That's not his phone number, Josh. That's not canon. That's not canon, and you know it. All right, even 20 minutes. I took out the stuff that I didn't feel good about. The problem with Republic of Pie is that people will be there, and I just don't want to be around people right now. But I would like a beverage. A beverage of some kind. Well, we'll have to figure this out.